Hello and welcome to Burning Issues, the only program that provides you with a regular glimpse inside the Wichita Fire Department. I'm Lieutenant Chris Land, and in this episode we will talk about the addition of expanded paramedic services provided by the Wichita Fire Department. Joining me today is Lieutenant Rocky Bumgarner and Lieutenant Dan Feil. Hi guys.
Hi Chris.
Why don't you guys tell me a little bit about yourself, and we'll start some questions after that.
Well, I'm Dan Feil. I'm Lieutenant Station 7 on the A shift. I've been with the department now 13 years, the last 5 of those as a lieutenant. I've been a paramedic for 10 years, and recently we started providing ALS services here in Wichita.
Great.
Very similar to Dan. Been on the department a little over 10 years. Been a paramedic for about the last 8, and also work at Station 7 on B shift.
Great.
And have started doing advanced life support recently.
Lieutenant Bumgarner, could you tell us a little bit about the advanced life support with the Wichita Fire Department?
Sure. I think that first we need to take a look at, historically we've had paramedics that worked on the fire department for a long time, over 30 years, but just recently we started delivering ALS service to the citizens, meaning that you could practice being a paramedic out in the field. A group of paramedics took some testing last March, April, and got what we called credentialed, which through our medical director would allow us to start practicing advanced life support in the field. And we went online with that August 1st of 2012.
Lieutenant Feil, could you give us a synopsis of the services that provided by the Wichita Fire Department?
Sure. Like Rocky said, the fire department's been providing medical services since the 80s, so this is nothing new to us. Currently, here in the city, if you call 911 for a medical emergency, you get a response from the fire department. We're a first response agency. All of our commissioned firefighters are at least certified to the level of an EMT, so you're at least getting basic life support. They handle patient assessment, basic skills, CPR, they take your set of vitals, they can administer a few medications. Beginning August 1st, though, our advanced life support providers, our paramedics, have started providing care up in Station 7's area. It seems to be an area where we have a longer response time from EMS, so that just seemed like the logical place to start. Paramedics a little bit more advanced. We give them more medications, we can start IVs, EKG monitoring. It's a little bit more advanced care up there.
Great. Rocky, could you give us an example of the training that a paramedic receives versus the regular EMT?
Yeah, I think, like Dan said, we're all medically trained to a point. And the EMTs, emergency medical technicians, are the basic level of service, and through the state licenses, EMTs and paramedics. And the EMTs every 2 years have to do 28 hours of what we call continuing education, and the paramedics have to do double that, a little over that. They have to do 60 hours. And so what you see is the EMTs and the paramedics will all go through the basic skill type of training, CPR, patient assessment, those types of training, and the medics will also additionally do a lot with protocol training and medical or medicine administration and those types of advanced level skills. So the paramedics have about double amount of training they have to do in 2 years to maintain their certification.
Lieutenant Feil, can you tell us what it takes to become a paramedic?
Most paramedic programs here in Wichita are anywhere from 12 to 24 months. It's a college program. A lot of prerequisites, basic classes that require to get into it. The classroom is extensive, a lot of study time, and including that also are clinical hours. You spend a lot of time in the ER, you rotate through all the different hospitals, all the different specialties, and all programs end with a field internship where you spend anywhere from 400 to 700 hours actually riding on an ambulance where you are providing care under the direction of another paramedic.
And the cost to go along with that, I mean, that's a college, you have to go through a college, and depending on what college you go to, per credit hour charge is probably anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 of out-of-pocket expense that the person going is going to have to bear. And so not only do they have that time commitment, they also have some out-of-pocket costs. You'll see we have a variety of medics that either became paramedics prior to being employed by the Wichita Fire Department, which is a very common way, you just hire a paramedic. Or we have a couple of us, like Dan and I both, went to paramedic school while we were employed by the Wichita Fire Department. And so that can be done also. but there is an out-of-pocket cost that goes along with, just a per credit hour charge for a college level class.
So you guys made a big investment in this. You must think it's really important.
We do. I mean, it's, and I think most paramedics, you're passionate about what you do. You enjoy helping people. We believe we do make a difference. So that definitely is the benefit and the reason why we all did this.
Yeah, and I also want us to go with it. I was a little selfish the reason when I wanted to go, because in Central County EMS, they're all medics, and in the first couple years on a job, you're making medical calls, and these folks on the ambulance are making discussions that I don't know much about, and I didn't like that very much. And you're making calls that they're doing some things that I don't know what they're doing, and so for me, it was one of the other reasons was that why don't I just go do what they're doing or figure out what they're doing, and the fire department allowed me to do that. And so to go to paramedic school, at least I understand now a little better what the folks on the ambulance are talking about. And that made me feel a lot more comfortable on medical calls.
Dan, can you describe the difference between an EMICT and an EMT with the Wichita Fire Department?
Sure. Like we said before, EMTs, they just stabilize and control life-threatening situations. They can open up an airway, start CPR, control bleeding, sprint fractures, and then non-life-threatening things also, patient assessment, vital signs. Paramedic, we get a little bit more advanced in our assessments. We also include the EKG. 12-lead monitoring is being done in the field also. They can provide medications, IV administration. Skills are a lot more advanced, and the training, therefore, is a lot more advanced also.
And I think it's important when we talk about the difference between paramedics and EMTs, especially with cardiac arrest, because that's where paramedics really their focus a lot is on cardiac. And I think that when we talk about cardiac arrest in the field with the paramedic level of certification, you are basically doing almost everything you can do in an ER room. We're going to bring that ER room for cardiac arrest to that patient's home or wherever they've had their cardiac arrest. And at the EMT level, you're limited to just CPR. And the paramedic level, you're going to bring that monitor, you're going to bring the appropriate drugs, and do all you can right there on scene as quick as you can.
Okay.
For the most part, what's being done in the field on a cardiac arrest is the same thing that's going to be done if it were to happen while you're in the ER.
So how critical is it to get them that immediate care?
I think it's very critical. Kind of a general number that people use is that for every minute someone is in cardiac arrest, their probability of survival is 10% less. So exactly, if someone has been in cardiac arrest for 4 minutes, their chance of survival is 60%. And that's just a general number. I mean, by all means, is it always accurate? But so what that means, at 10 minutes of cardiac arrest time, they have virtually zero chance of survival. So the quicker that we can get to them, not only paramedics, but EMTs, because studies have also shown that CPR, especially compressions, as soon as someone has a cardiac arrest event, is what saves people's lives. And so the time frame from downtime to CPR starting becomes extremely important when we're talking about survival rates. So.
And when we talk about, probably the two main emergencies, cardiac arrest and strokes, we use the adage, with cardiac arrest, time is muscle, that being a heart attack also. The longer the time, the more muscle is being lost. With a stroke, it's the same thing, time is brain. More brain is being affected, the longer this goes on. So the quicker you can make that call, the quicker we can get there and stabilize things, the better off your chances are.
Are there any plans to expand the medical services within the fire department, and how do the fire department and EMS coexist with each other?
We're very early in this process. We're just basically getting our feet wet. Both units at Station 7 are fully capable of providing ALS services, the engine of the squad up there. But there's a lot of other parts that still need to come together to kind of further this process. I believe that we're doing the best thing, we're providing the best care, and our goal is that we progress this to doing even more. We have a great working relationship in the field with EMS. We're a tiered service. It typically is seamless from the call of 911 to when the fire department responds, to when EMS responds, to the transport to the hospital. So the services are fine. All of our paramedics are trained to the same level as they are with EMS. We go to the same training, same recertification. We're all credentialed. We work under the same medical director. and we work under the same set of protocols. So you're getting the same service, and things tend to work fairly well together.
So, guys, what's brought about this change? I mean, why did this come into effect? Why have we got to this point?
Well, Chris, I think it's a couple things. One, I think that fire departments throughout the nation have started doing medical calls, back in the late 70s, early 80s, and I think as the medical calls have grown and the demand on the fire service to make them, you've seen fire departments really move towards an ALS level of service. There's fire departments all over the nation, some as close as Newton, that do ALS, almost strictly ALS fire service. And I think that is, and we never have. We've had paramedics, but we've never done that type of service. And I think sort of the industry standard has become to do some type of ALS response. And I think that's part of the reasons why we're doing it today. I also think that the players tend to change a little bit. We got a new medical director 3 years ago, and Dr. Braithwaite, and she had come from a previous service where she had seen ALS in the fire service, was open to having us do ALS, provided somewhat of a path to get to doing ALS, which was our credentialing process. So I think having her on board as a new medical director with her experience previously in an ALS type of fire service got us to where we're at today, doing some ALS as a fire department.
I mean, typically, 70% of our call volume are medical calls, and that means that EMS is being taxed just as much as we are. We have certain areas in the city that are taxed more than others. Once an ambulance is used, you kind of have a hole in there in service. By providing a paramedic crew in that area from the fire department, you get the same service. There's no delay now, just because you don't have a unit there in that area.
Lieutenant Feil, can you clarify to us what the difference is between the ALS and the EMT? What are those? Can you explain to our audience today?
Sure. EMT is the emergency medical technician. It's a basic level of care. They attend training, usually a full semester class. They're certified by the state. They provide basic skills. ALS, advanced life support, just goes above and beyond. BLS is still an important component of that, but the advanced skills is what makes an ALS provider a little bit different.
And I think if we talk about ALS, BLS is usually, just by certification level, about a 5-hour class on one semester. ALS, advanced life support, depending on what program you go to, is either going to be a year or possibly 2 years. It's about 55 college credit hours and about 700 hours worth of ride-out or hospital time, where you spend time in the hospital doing medical things, and then you ride out on an ambulance for about 400 hours. So it's a little bit more in depth as far as just the level of certification. When we talk advanced life support, the difference is really EKG monitoring. Difference from being an EMT is there's EKG monitoring, there's IV starts, and not just along with IV starts is medical administration of cardiac drugs, dextrose, a variety of different drugs you can give IV, which the emergency medical technician is not going to be able to do that at their certification level.
Rocky, how is this important to the community, and what are we going to do to make it better?
A couple things, Chris. I think it's very important in the community because the paramedic delivery service is the highest field service you're going to get as far as certification. So we're at that level, and you always want to be there as an organization. You want to be able to deliver the highest level that you can or you're capable of doing. So it makes us better as an organization. Also, it benefits the citizens because it gets certified folks to them quicker. Obviously, sometimes, in cardiac arrest example we've talked about around here a little bit, the basic level of skill is still the most important level of skill they can get as quick as possible. CPR, compressions, and some ventilations, and timely defibrillation. That is by far the most important thing when it comes to cardiac arrest or heart attacks. But along with that, there's all kinds of variety of medical calls that advanced level providers can do. For instance, a very good common call we run are diabetics that have low blood sugar, and the quicker you can reverse their blood sugar, the better off they're going to be. Prior to this, we couldn't do that. Well, we might have the skills, but we weren't allowed to by the service. And today we can. And so we can get them, we give them some dextrose IV, gets their blood sugar up to regain consciousness at a faster pace than before. Because before we'd have to wait for the ambulance to arrive and then do the same thing. So I think everybody benefits. We benefit as a department because it puts us at a standard where we want to be. The citizens of Wichita definitely are the users of the system, obviously benefit. I think that the next step for us would be try to grow the system a little bit. We are, like Dan said, we are in the infancy stage of this thing. Very few providers. We have 7 total, 4 on B shift, 3 on C shift. To grow it it's going to take more personnel to be certified, most likely, and then try to define it a little better where we're going to respond and how we're going to respond. I think right now we're in very infancy of this thing of ALS and trying to figure that out maybe ourselves a little bit. And so, but I think everybody benefits. We benefit, the organization, and citizens of Wichita also benefit because we're going to get the highest level of certification to them faster. So.
We are definitely headed in the right direction. I mean, my hope is that this grows to even more. The 7 of us isn't enough, but we're providing great care in the area that we're at. Our hope is that, yeah, we're able to expand the staffing numbers of ALS providers we have in the fire department and start putting those out in different stations throughout the city.
How many paramedics do we have on the Wichita Fire Department?
I think total, we have 7 credentialed. We have 7 that can practice. They do advanced level service. We have, I think, approximately 18, 15 to 20 for sure, that are total. So there's about 10 or so that are not credentialed yet, and I think we're working towards that with those personnel also. So even with that number, it'd be difficult to deliver ALS to all parts of the city. You're still going to have to make some decisions about where you do advanced level providers in the fire department.
The credentialing process is a long process to get you. It's the medical director's kind of stamp of approval that she feels confident in your skills. It's a long testing process, and that's why it takes a little bit longer to get a paramedic up to her standard, and why we only have 7 currently practicing.
And I think that's an important note when you talk about the medical director, Dr. Braithwaite. To have paramedic level of service, you have to have a medical director. And what the credentialing process does is lets her make sure that we are at a level of skill to practice our skills. And I think we're both comfortable with that. I think since she's the one that we're kind of using her license to practice, I think she's got every right to say, where are you at with your skills, and you need to be at this level. And that's what the credentialing process did for us and made her comfortable. So it's an important process.
That concludes this episode of Burning Issues. Remember, Wichita firefighters are highly trained professionals who are your friends and neighbors. We are Wichita's bravest, and we are somewhere serving you every day.